Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of REVlogue. So today I want to talk a little bit about the race car parts that you may not need yet. Now, I totally understand that there's a very broad spectrum of automotive enthusiasts. You may tune your car to just aesthetic mods, and you may be crazy into track driving and you're all about the result. To me, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Sometimes I feel like the track guys just look down on the hard parkers, if you will, and I think that's not a nice thing. We're a very small niche group as an enthusiast. I don't want to cause any more division. It's your car, do what you want, but this video is more for some of the people that are really into developing yourself as a better driver. So now, what parts do I think are maybe not as efficient use of money for your car? Let's see. The first item that I want to discuss is the stainless steel brake lines. I know that there's a huge misnomer on the internet saying, "Oh, I feel like my brakes are working much better after adding this stainless steel braid lines." But the reality is, you have to really drive the car super hard, I think, to bloat up those rubber lines. To be honest, I've not really heard of anything like that happening on the track. If anything, I feel like there's more negatives to doing a stainless steel braid lines on a daily driven car. I know Mark from Savage Geese covered this to a good extent, so watch his video. If I were to summarize, basically, those stainless lines, they may corrode, and also they bind a lot more than rubber lines that move a lot more freely when you're turning the steering wheel. It's just another maintenance item that you got to keep your eyes on. So I think it's more of a negative than a positive. Number 2, big brake kits. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Andy, those fixed calipers, they look really cool and they provide you really firm braking feel. Well, I think part of it is true. Again, with the aesthetic choice, it's up to you. It's your car. But for people that are doing it for performance upgrade, so I've had the AP Sprint kit on my BRZ when I was going to the track more often. And I would say, that's a pretty quality piece. Apparently it saves 10 pounds per corner. So it's a 20 pounds of weight savings of unsprung mass. So, you'd think you'd feel that. But really, at my driving levels, it really isn't going to make a huge difference on the lap times, right? And as for the braking feel, I think some brands like Brembo's that come as an OEM setup feels way more firm and nice. But I think some brands, you're not gonna get like a huge difference switching from your floating caliper to the fixed caliper. But really, the people that go to the track a lot, the reason why they switch out to the big brake kit is for bigger cooling capacity, which means you have a longer interval of service for your brake pads and rotors. The rotors on the AP kit was really thick, giving you a very good cooling, and essentially that meant that I could use the pads for much longer, and the rotors also. So you drop like $2,000 on this huge, big brake kit, but in the long run, you actually save money by getting a longer service interval on your brake rotors and pads. So that's really why you do it, is actually because you save money. The third item on the list is coilovers. I know it sounds kind of weird, hey, but if you want to drive fast, don't you want to make the car a little bit lower and have put the tires to its maximum performance using the suspension? Well, what a lot of people underestimate is that your spring and shock combination out of the box from factory, especially if your vehicle is a sports car or performance-oriented vehicle, is really good. I mean, and they're rated to, you know, hundreds of thousands of miles for durability, right? I was getting to a point where I was actually running the stock settings to its max capacity, because you know the oil in the damper gets really hot when you push the car to the absolute limits on the track, and the dampers just wear out much faster. But I would say that if you're not at that rate where you're actually going through the stock settings, then that means that you haven't reached the maximum limits of your current setup. So I would actually advise you to stay with the stock settings and learn how to drive faster on the stock settings. You know, with the coilovers, again, it's more maintenance items to keep your eyes on. Those spring perches, you got to make sure that they're tight, and the coilovers in general, because it has more adjustability, there's just more parts that you got to keep your eyes on. Not to mention corner balancing, which is you know, if you want to do things right with a coilover, a necessity, and that's more expensive than a traditional alignment, you know. So the fourth item on the list is really sticky tires. Yeah, sounds very controversial, doesn't it? Let me explain. So the problem with really sticky tires like the Bridgestone RE71Rs or the BF Goodrich Rival S is they mask a lot of your mistake, and you know, it's the tire that's giving you the fast lap time, not you. So if you start with a really sticky tire, then you don't have room to grow. So what you actually want to do is start with a slower tire and build your way up. Not only does this give you capacity to grow, but stickier tires, they also get greasy faster, meaning you won't have consistent grip throughout your sessions. If you go to a track day, you know, you probably get a good 3 or 4 sessions. And with a time attack tire like the RE71R or the Rival S, you might get one good session, or if you're really fast, maybe a few laps, and then, you know, after that they just fall off and you don't have the same amount of grip anymore, meaning you don't get as much practice versus some other tires that stay very consistent and don't fall off and get greasy on you. So that's something for you to consider to maximize your seat time on the racetrack. The last item on the list is aero parts. Again, I know a lot of people that do aero for mostly looks, and it's okay, you know, it's your car. But that's also one of those things that you really should work up to. You know, get faster without the aero parts first, and then add it in to really maximize your potential. It's gonna make you a much faster driver. So I'm sure you've noticed a theme here, but the idea is to outgrow the parts that's already on the car first, and then graduate into performance parts later. So now that we've talked about the what not to do's, well, you know, what can I actually spend money on to have a little bit of fun in tuning your car, and also gives me maximum effect? So I'd say the number one place you should start is fluids and brake pads. Make sure you're using good quality oil for your engine and transmission and various other drivetrain related parts to protect your parts. And also, you know, I've had experience boiling brake fluids before. If you boil your brake fluids on the track, then you know you're not going to be able to maximize your seat time. And even on spirited, you know, canyon drives, the pads, brake pads, will make a huge difference. I would say arguably more than the big brake kit. The second item on the list is pay attention to the necessary cooling parts. When I was driving the 86 and the BRZ, you know, that car required an oil cooler. Even in just spirited canyon drives, the oil temps would shoot up really quickly, and you really want to protect the car from having catastrophic failures, right? Whether you're on the racetrack or just driving on the public roads. Cooling, I feel like, is a massively underestimated portion for a lot of tuners out there. But I think good high quality parts for this department is absolutely necessary. Now, I talked about not having a very sticky tire, But you do want to have a performance-oriented tire that will operate at a slightly higher temperature than regular tires. I have experience driving on a tire that wasn't necessarily meant to be driven hard. The stock BRZ tires actually, they were okay, but for the most part, they started to kind of chunk the more heat you put in them. And you don't want that, because it's a little sketchy. But the higher performance tires will wear out much more evenly, and it'll again stay very consistent throughout the sessions. I've heard good things about the Hankook RS4s. I'm driving on the Maxxis VR1 now, and the reason why I chose that tire is because it heat cycles very evenly, and the grip doesn't just fall off like some of the time attack tires like the RE71R and the Rival S. I've also driven on the GT Radial SX2s, which are not as grippy of a tire, so you can learn a lot of things, and it will not chunk. So that's also a good tire to learn on. The next item is safety products. You're gonna need a helmet and preferably also a Hans device. I know I've already covered it in a separate video talking about the Simpson Hybrid S. The ones that, it's a Hans device that you can use without the 5-point harness. But you're gonna want to spend money here, trust me. No one really thinks about this before like a bad accident happens to you, but after getting in a kind of a messy accident myself, I look at safety equipment in a totally different eye now. So can't stress enough, protect yourself, invest in a high quality safety gear. And of course the last item, the most important I feel like, is seat time. I'm kind of a culprit myself for not spending enough time on the racetrack and always wanting to just upgrade the car. But seat time is king. I mean, there's just no way around it. Even if you're building up bad habits without an instructor, you're still adding on to the experiences of being on a racetrack. Yeah, I would highly recommend driving the car more versus trying to make the car faster. If you improve yourself, whatever car you get in, you're gonna drive that specific car faster. Enthusiast talks about, oh, my car understeers a lot or my car oversteers a lot, and depending on alignment settings, suspension, yada yada yada, yes, it will make a difference, but at the end of the day, you're the driver, you're the one that's giving the input to the car, and it's really up to you to make the car understeer or oversteer in certain situations. So yeah, I can't stress enough, if you're a better driver, you're just going to be faster no matter what car you're in, and I think that's a pretty admirable goal to achieve. So thank you so much for staying till the very end of the video. I hope this video was helpful. If you like our content, please subscribe and stay tuned for more videos.